An ex-convict? That's your big threat. Officer Mitchell Barnes burst into mocking laughter as 17-year-old Maya Rodriguez sat handcuffed in the back of his patrol car outside Lincoln High School. Let me guess, she's going to teach me a lesson about respecting criminals? The afternoon sun beat down on the school parking lot, where Maya had been detained for what Barnes called suspicious behavior, walking to the wealthy neighborhood adjacent to her school while carrying a backpack that looked too expensive for someone like her. Her dark hair clung to her sweaty forehead as the metal cuffs bit into her wrists, but her eyes held a strange calmness that unsettled the veteran officer. Maya Rodriguez had never imagined her Tuesday would end like this. Just 2 hours earlier, she'd been presenting her groundbreaking research on cellular regeneration to Dr. Sarah Chen's advanced biology class, explaining how her discoveries could potentially revolutionize cancer treatment protocols. Her classmates had given her a standing ovation, and Dr. Chen had whispered that MIT's early admission committee would be very interested in her work. The designer backpack that had triggered Barnes' suspicion wasn't a status symbol Maya could afford on her foster family's budget. It had been a gift from Dr. Chen, who believed Maya's research deserved quality equipment to match her extraordinary intellect. Inside were notebooks filled with complex molecular diagrams, her laptop containing 3 years of meticulous research data, and acceptance letters from 7 prestigious universities offering full scholarships. Maya had been walking home from school, taking the same route she'd used for 3 years, when Barnes spotted her crossing through Millionaire's Row, the affluent district that separated Lincoln High from a modest foster home where she lived. She'd grown accustomed to the suspicious stares from residents who assumed she didn't belong, but this was the first time anyone had actually called the police. I wasn't doing anything wrong, Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite the humiliation of being cuffed in front of classmates who were now recording the incident with their phones. I was walking home from school. You can call my principal to verify, or Dr. Chung can confirm I was in advanced biology until 3:30. Barnes scoffed, adjusting his body camera that had been malfunctioning for the past week according to his reports. Sure you were, sweetheart. Just happened to be casing houses in Millionaire's Row, right? We've had 3 break-ins this month, and guess what? They all fit your profile. The racial undertone wasn't subtle, but Barnes had perfected the art of discrimination wrapped in procedure. At 42 years old, he'd been patrolling this beat for 15 years, developing an expertise in targeting minorities who dared to venture into his affluent neighborhoods. Teenagers like Maya usually folded quickly under pressure, accepting whatever story he crafted to justify their detention. Maya's foster mother, Mrs. Peterson, had warned her about moments like this. Stay calm, know your rights, and never let them see you break. She'd advised after Maya's first week at Lincoln High, when she'd come home crying about the stairs and whispered comments about the scholarship kid who didn't belong. What Barnes didn't know was that Maya had survived far worse than his intimidation tactics. She'd lived in 6 different foster homes before landing with the Petersons at age 14, developing survival instincts and emotional resilience that most adults never acquired. She'd learned to read people's true intentions beneath their polite facades, recognizing Barnes's type immediately. I want to call my mother, Maya said, maintaining that unsettling calm that made Barnes wonder if she was on drugs or just unusually defiant for someone in her position. Barnes paused, studying her more closely. Most teenagers would be crying or begging by now, but Maya sat with perfect posture, her breathing controlled, her gaze direct and unblinking. There was something disconcerting about her composure, as if she possessed knowledge or confidence that didn't match her apparent circumstances. Go ahead, Barnes laughed, unlocking her phone with mock courtesy. Let's hear what Mama has to say about her little angel getting arrested. What's she gonna do? Threaten to sue me with her prison savings. Maya looked directly at Barnes as she spoke her mother's number aloud, her voice carrying a strange confidence that made the officer's smirk falter slightly. There was something in her eyes, not fear or anger, but anticipation, as if she knew something he didn't. The phone rang twice before a calm, authoritative voice answered. Maya? The voice carried an edge of immediate concern that suggested this wasn't Maya's first emergency call, but also a control readiness that Barnes couldn't quite place. Mom, I need you to come to Lincoln High School immediately. I'm being detained by Officer Barnes for walking home from school through Cedar Heights. Maya's voice remained steady, but Barnes noticed her free hand unconsciously touching a small pendant hanging from her neck, a simple silver chain with what looked like a military dog tag. What Barnes couldn't hear was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line, followed by a series of rapid-fire questions delivered in precise tone of someone accustomed to crisis management. He also couldn't see the way Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly during the conversation, as if help was already mobilizing. She said she'll be here in 20 minutes, Maya announced as she ended the call, but her slight smile suggested she expected her situation to change much sooner than that. Barnes felt his first twinge of unease. Something about the girl's confidence, the authoritative voice on the phone, and the way she'd handled the entire situation with unusual composure made him wonder if he'd made a miscalculation. What he definitely hadn't noticed was the black sedan that had been parked across the street for the past 10 minutes, its occupant making phone calls and taking photographs of the entire encounter. The driver had started his engine the moment Maya made her call. If you're already feeling the tension building in this story of injustice and hidden secrets, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will completely change everything you think you know about Maya's family. 20 minutes had passed since Maya's mother answered the phone, and Officer Barnes was growing impatient. Each time he tried to end the call, Maya calmly requested to remain on the line until her mother arrived, citing her legal rights with a precision that made Barnes increasingly uncomfortable. "Listen, Princess," Barnes snapped, his earlier amusement curdling into irritation. "Your mama can take all the time she wants, but you're still going downtown for questioning. 3 houses got robbed in this neighborhood, and you fit the description perfectly." Maya turned to face him through the patrol car's partition, her dark eyes steady and unblinking. "What description would that be, Officer Barnes? Because I've been walking the same route for 3 years, and you've never stopped me before." The directness of her question caught Barnes off guard. Most teenagers would be crying or begging by now, but Maya sat with an odd composure that reminded him of someone, though he couldn't quite place who. Her phone remained pressed to her ear, and occasionally she would nod as if receiving instructions. Barnes had built his reputation on breaking down suspects quickly, especially young minorities who usually folded under pressure. But Maya's calm was unsettling him, and her knowledge of legal procedures suggested she wasn't the typical scared teenager he was used to intimidating. The description is a Hispanic female, approximately your age and build, seen casing houses between 2 and 4 p.m. Barnes lied smoothly, though no such description existed. He perfected this technique over 15 years. Create reasonable doubt, establish a narrative, and let the system work in his favor. Maya glanced at her smartwatch, which clearly showed 3:47 p.m. "I've been in advanced biology until 3:30, Officer Barnes. Dr. Chun can verify that, along with 26 other students. Would you like me to provide their contact information?" The precision of her response frustrated Barnes further. Most kids couldn't even remember what they'd eaten for breakfast, but Maya seemed to have anticipated exactly these questions. She pulled out a perfectly organized student planner, showing her daily schedule with timestamps and teacher signatures. "Cute little book," Barnes dismissed, though internally he noted how meticulously organized everything was. Anyone can fake a schedule. What I want to know is why you're walking through Millionaire's Row with a backpack worth more than most people's cars. Maya's jaw tightened slightly, the first crack in her composed facade. "Dr. Chin gave me this backpack because I'm conducting research that could help cancer patients. She believed my work deserved quality equipment." "Cancer research?" Barnes laughed mockingly. "Let me guess. You're going to cure cancer and solve world hunger too? Kids like you always have these big dreams until reality hits." The dismissive tone struck deeper than Maya expected. She thought about her younger brother Luis, who'd lost his battle with leukemia 2 years ago. The research she was conducting wasn't just academic. It was personal. Every late night in the lab, every complex equation she solved, every small breakthrough brought her closer to ensuring no other family would endure what hers had. But Barnes could know that her big dreams were fueled by the memory of holding her brother's hand as he took his final breath, promising him she'd find a way to help other kids like him. He couldn't know that her calm came from survival skills learned in foster care, where showing weakness invited exploitation. "My dreams aren't your concern, "Officer Barnes," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying a weight that made Barnes glance at her again. There was something in her tone, not defiance, but certainty, as if she knew something he didn't. Barnes decided to escalate his intimidation tactics. He called his partner, Officer Davis, requesting backup for what he described as an uncooperative juvenile suspect with possible gang affiliations. Within minutes, 2 additional patrol cars arrived, their flashing lights drawing even more attention from passing students and neighbors. Maya watched the display with the same unsettling calm, occasionally speaking quietly into her phone. Yes, they just called backup. 3 cars now. Still no evidence. Still no Miranda rights read. Yes, I remember what you taught me. Barnes caught fragments of her conversation and felt his first twinge of unease. Who was giving her such specific legal guidance? Most ex-convicts he knew could barely navigate their own court cases, let alone coach someone else through police procedures. Officer Davis approached the car, and Barnes filled him in with his version of events, painting Maya as a potential gang member conducting surveillance. But Davis, who'd worked with Barnes for 3 years, noticed inconsistencies in the story that made him uncomfortable. "Barnes," Davis said quietly, "the girl's got perfect grades, teacher recommendations, and no priors in the system. Maybe we should just verify her story and cut her loose." Barnes's face darkened. "Are you questioning my judgment, Davis? I've been doing this job since you were in high school. I know suspicious behavior when I see it." The tension between the officers was palpable, and Maya filed away this information while continuing her phone conversation. Through the rear window, she noticed the same black sedan was still parked across the street, its occupant now standing outside the vehicle with professional-grade camera equipment. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message that made her lips curve into the slightest smile. Her mother had just sent her exact ETA, 7 minutes. But the message that followed made Maya's pulse quicken with anticipation rather than fear. "Federal backup is 2 minutes out. Stay calm, baby girl. Mama is bringing the cavalry." What Barnes didn't realize was that Maya's ex-convict mother had served 15 years not for the crimes he assumed, but as an undercover federal agent who'd voluntarily entered the prison system to dismantle trafficking networks from within. Every day Maya had lived in foster care was another day her mother had sacrificed her freedom to protect other people's children. The sound of approaching sirens in the distance made Barnes check his radio nervously, but Maya just closed her eyes and whispered something that chilled him to the bone. "You have no idea what's coming, do you?" The approaching sirens grew louder, but they weren't local police reinforcements as Officer Barnes had assumed. Maya watched through the car window as 3 black SUVs with federal plates pulled into the school parking lot, their occupants emerging with the coordinated precision of a tactical team. "What the hell?" Barnes muttered, his cocky demeanor faltering as he noticed the federal agents' badges and equipment. His radio crackled to life with confused chatter from dispatch, asking about unscheduled federal activity in his jurisdiction. Maya finally ended her phone call, but not before saying something that made Barnes's blood run cold. "Yes, Mom. I told them exactly what you taught me to do if this ever happened. The recordings are already uploaded to the secure server." "Recordings?" Barnes spun around, his face flushed with panic. "What recordings?" Maya held up her smartwatch, its small screen showing a red recording indicator that had been active for the past 43 minutes. "Every word you said, Officer Barnes. Every illegal procedure you followed. Every racist assumption you've made. It's all been streaming live to a federal database." The watch had been a gift from her mother for her 17th birthday, but Maya now understood it wasn't just a present. It was protection, a sophisticated piece of surveillance equipment disguised as a teenager's accessory. Her mom had insisted she wear it every day, especially when walking through certain neighborhoods. Detective Sarachin approached Barnes with federal credentials, her Asian features and authoritative bearing immediately commanding respect. Maya felt a surge of relief seeing her academic mentor, though she now realized Dr. Chen's involvement in her life had never been coincidental. "Officer Barnes," Chen announced calmly, "I need you to step away from the vehicle. Maya Rodriguez is under federal protection as a witness in an ongoing investigation." Barnes' confusion was palpable. "Federal protection? She's just some kid I caught walking where she doesn't belong." "That kid," Chen responded with icy precision, is the daughter of Agent Rosa Martinez, who spent 15 years undercover in maximum security prisons dismantling human trafficking networks. Maya has been under protective surveillance since age 12 because 3 different criminal organizations have outstanding contracts on her family. The revelation hit Barnes like a physical blow. His routine stop had just exposed a federal witness to potential danger, and every second of his misconduct had been recorded and transmitted to authorities who could end his career with a single phone call. Maya watched Barnes process this information, his arrogance crumbling into desperate damage control. But she felt no satisfaction in his panic, only sadness that it had taken federal intervention for him to see her as a human being worthy of basic respect. Dr. Chen unlocked Maya's handcuffs with professional efficiency, revealing the red welts where the metal had cut into her wrists. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" she asked gently, photographing the injuries with a device that immediately uploaded the evidence. "Just my pride," Maya whispered, finally allowing emotion to crack her composed facade. "I did everything right. I stayed calm. I knew my rights. I didn't give him any excuse. But it didn't matter, did it?" Chen's expression softened with understanding. "Your mother prepared you well. The recording you made today will help prevent this from happening to other kids who don't have federal protection." As Maya stepped out of the patrol car, she noticed students throughout the parking lot recording the scene with their phones. Her detention had gone viral on social media within minutes, with hashtags like #JusticeForMaya already trending. The public pressure would make it impossible for the police department to bury this incident quietly. Officer Davis approached Chun apologetically. "Agent Chun, I want to state for the record that I advised Officer Barnes to verify the student's story rather than escalate the situation. His actions don't represent our department's values." Maya observed this carefully choreographed distancing, recognizing it as damage control rather than genuine concern. But she also noticed something else. 3 other students from her school were now approaching with their own federal escorts, all carrying similar watches, all sharing similar stories of harassment they'd never reported. The sedan that had been parked across the street finally revealed its significance as Agent Marcus Williams emerged, carrying a briefcase full of documentation. "Maya, your mother asked me to give you this," he said, handing her a thick folder marked with federal classifications. Inside were photographs, surveillance reports, and legal documents spanning 15 years. The complete record of her mother's sacrifice and the criminal organizations that still considered Maya a target, but also included were commendations, awards, and testimonials proving that Rosa Martinez was one of the most decorated undercover agents in federal history. Maya's hands trembled as she read citations describing her mother's heroic actions, single-handedly preventing a major trafficking operation, saving dozens of children, gathering evidence that had led to hundreds of arrests. The woman Barnes had dismissed as just another ex-con had literally risked her life for 15 years to protect children exactly like Maya. "Officer Barnes," Agent Chen announced loudly enough for all the recording students to hear, "you're being detained for civil rights violations, abuse of authority, and compromising a federal investigation." The footage from Maya's device shows clear evidence of racial profiling and excessive force. As federal agents placed Barnes in handcuffs, the same cuffs he'd used to humiliate Maya, she felt a complex mix of emotions. Victory, yes, but also profound sadness that it had taken this level of intervention to achieve basic justice. What Barnes didn't know was that Maya's detention had triggered a federal protocol 15 years in the making, and 3 criminal organizations were about to discover that the quiet teenager they'd underestimated was about to bring down their entire network. The crowd of students, federal agents, and arriving news crews suddenly parted as a sleek black motorcycle roared into the school parking lot. The rider removed her helmet, revealing a woman in her early 40s with Maya's same dark eyes and an aura of controlled power that made everyone instinctively step back. Rosa Martinez had spent 15 years perfecting the art of appearing dangerous when necessary, and today was definitely necessary. Her leather jacket couldn't hide the scars that marked her arms. Souvenirs from prison fights she deliberately provoked to maintain her cover. But her most striking feature was her gaze, the cold, calculating stare of someone who had survived maximum security by never showing weakness. Officer Barnes, still in federal custody, felt his legs nearly give out when he saw her. This wasn't the broken ex-convict he'd imagined. This was a predator who moved with lethal grace, someone who had clearly faced down killers and won. "Maya," Rosa said quietly, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to command. Her daughter immediately stepped forward, and Rosa's expression softened as she gently examined the red marks on Maya's wrists. "Did he hurt you anywhere else?" "No, Mom. I did exactly what you taught me. I stayed calm, I recorded everything, and I waited for backup." Maya's voice cracked slightly with relief at finally being able to drop her composed facade. Rosa nodded approvingly, then turned toward Barnes with an expression that made several agents unconsciously reach for their weapons. She approached him slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling wounded prey. "Officer Barnes," she said, her voice deadly quiet, "I believe you had some opinions about ex-convicts and their children. Would you like to share them with me directly?" Barnes tried to maintain his arrogance, but his voice shook. "Listen, lady, I was just doing my job. Your kid was in the wrong neighborhood, and—" "My kid," Rosa interrupted, "was walking home from advanced biology class where she maintains a perfect 4.0 GPA while conducting cancer research that could save thousands of lives. She was in that neighborhood because she earned the right to be there through intelligence and hard work." Agent Chin stepped forward with a tablet, reading from Barnes's personnel file. "Officer Barnes has 13 complaints of excessive force in the past 5 years, 9 involving minorities, all dismissed without investigation. His body camera has mysteriously malfunctioned 17 times during controversial arrests." Rosa smiled, but it was the cold smile of someone who had learned to find joy in justice. "Maya, show everyone what your watch recorded." Maya connected her smartwatch to Agent Chen's tablet, and Barnes's voice filled the parking lot through portable speakers. "Kids like you always have these big dreams until reality hits. Let me guess, she's going to cure cancer and solve world hunger too." The crowd of students gasped audibly. Several teachers who had gathered looked genuinely shocked at hearing one of their star students dismissed so cruelly. The local news crew, which had arrived to cover what they thought was a routine arrest, suddenly realized they had stumbled onto a major civil rights story. But Rosa wasn't finished. She produced her own device, a sophisticated recording unit that had been running since she'd received Maya's call. "Officer Barnes, you also said, and I quote, 'People like you always think you can talk your way out of trouble, but I know you're kind.' Would you care to explain to these news cameras exactly what you meant by your kind?" Barnes's face went ashen. His union representative, who had just arrived, immediately stepped forward. "My client won't be making any further statements." Rosa laughed, a sound that chilled everyone present. Smart lawyer. Because what your client doesn't realize is that his routine stop just exposed a federal witness to 3 different criminal organizations that have been hunting my family for 15 years. She gestured to Agent Williams, who opened his briefcase and began displaying photographs. Miguel Santos, currently serving life for human trafficking. Carlos Mendoza, killed in prison last year, but his organization is still active. And Vincent Romano, who runs drugs through 5 states and has specifically threatened Maya because of testimony I provided that sent his son to federal prison. The photographs showed Maya at various ages, walking to school at science fairs, even shopping with friends, all taken by criminal surveillance teams tracking her movements, waiting for the right opportunity. "Every day for 15 years, Rosa continued, her voice rising with controlled fury, "my daughter has lived under the threat of people who want to hurt her because I chose to risk my life protecting other people's children from monsters. And today, Officer Barnes, your racist assumptions and your need to humiliate a teenager nearly gave those monsters exactly what they've been waiting for." Barnes finally understood the magnitude of what he'd done. His routine harassment had potentially compromised a federal operation and endangered lives. His career wasn't just over. He was looking at federal charges that could send him to prison for years. Maya stepped forward, addressing the crowd of students and news cameras with remarkable composure. "For 15 years, I thought my mother abandoned me. I grew up in foster care, believing she chose drugs or crime over her family. But she chose to sacrifice everything, including being with me, to save children she'd never met from trafficking networks. Rosa's tough facade finally cracked, tears streaming down her face as she realized her daughter now understood the sacrifice that had torn their family apart. I miss your first steps, your first words, every birthday, every achievement. I chose to let you hate me rather than risk your safety by staying in your life. Maya embraced her mother for the first time in 7 years, both women crying openly. The emotional reunion, broadcast live on local news, transformed a story about police misconduct into something much more powerful, a tale of sacrifice, justice, and family bond that couldn't be broken by time or circumstances. Agent Chin announced the final piece of justice. Officer Barnes is being charged with civil rights violations, child endangerment, and compromising a federal investigation. His pension is forfeit, and he'll be facing federal prosecution. Additionally, the police department will undergo mandatory federal oversight for civil rights compliance. As Barnes was led away in handcuffs, Maya whispered something to her mother that made Rosa smile through her tears. He had no idea that messing with the wrong teenager would bring down an entire corrupt system. Did he? 6 months after the parking lot confrontation that changed everything, Maya Rodriguez stood at the podium of the National Science Foundation's Youth Conference, addressing an audience of 1,000 aspiring researchers. Her cancer research had just received a $500,000 federal grant, fast-tracked through a program designed to support promising students whose work had been interrupted by civil rights violations. Excellence isn't about where you come from or how others perceive you, Maya told the captivated audience. It's about refusing to let someone else's limitations become your ceiling. In the front row, Rosa Martinez watched her daughter with undisguised pride. The federal government had officially ended Rosa's undercover assignment, recognizing that her 15-year sacrifice had already yielded enough evidence to dismantle 3 major trafficking networks. For the first time since Maya was 2 years old, they were living together as a real family. The transformation in their lives had been remarkable. Maya's story had inspired the creation of the Rodriguez Protection Protocol, a federal program providing enhanced security for children of undercover agents. Her smartwatch recordings have become training materials for police departments nationwide, demonstrating the devastating impact of unconscious bias. Officer Barnes, meanwhile, faced a very different reality. After serving 18 months in federal prison for civil rights violations, he'd been released to find himself unemployable in law enforcement. His pension had been revoked, his police certification permanently suspended, and his name had become synonymous with the worst aspects of racial profiling. The man who had once felt untouchable now worked nights at a warehouse, invisible and forgotten. Dr. Sarah Chun had officially adopted her role as Maya's academic mentor, but their relationship had deepened beyond professional boundaries. Your mother saved my sister from trafficking 15 years ago, Chun revealed during a quiet dinner at their home. When Rosa asked me to watch over you, it wasn't just a favor, it was an honor. The ripple effects of Maya's case had transformed Lincoln High School entirely. Principal Morrison, who had initially remained silent during the controversy, now led mandatory bias training for all staff. The school had implemented new partnerships with local police, requiring officers to complete cultural competency courses before interacting with students. Most significantly, 3 other students who had been wearing similar surveillance devices came forward with their own stories of harassment and profiling. Their collective testimonies led to a Department of Justice investigation that resulted in complete restructuring of the local police department's community relations policies. Maya's foster siblings, who had followed her story through news coverage, reached out to reconnect. They formed an informal support network for children of parents serving in dangerous government assignments, sharing resources and emotional support that none of them had received during their years in care. The black sedan that had been monitoring Maya's detention turned out to belong to Agent Williams, who had been conducting surveillance on Barnes for months. We'd received complaints about his pattern of targeting minority youth, Williams explained. Maya's case gave us the evidence we needed to act. Barnes's former partner, Officer Davis, had undergone his own transformation. Haunted by his failure to intervene during Maya's detention, he'd requested transfer to the department's new Community Outreach Division, where he now worked to rebuild trust between police and the communities they served. Maya's advanced biology teacher, Mr. Harrison, incorporated her research methodology into his curriculum, inspiring dozens of other students to pursue projects addressing social justice through scientific innovation. Maya showed us that academic excellence and activism aren't separate pursuits, he told visitors who came to observe his transformed classroom. The federal protection that had once isolated Maya now connected her to a network of families who understood the unique challenges of loving someone who risked their life for others. Support groups formed, scholarship programs were established, and what had begun as personal trauma became a catalyst for systemic support. During Maya's speech at the science conference, she paused to acknowledge the hidden costs of heroism. My mother missed my childhood to protect other people's children. That sacrifice deserves recognition, not dismissal from officers who judge based on assumptions rather than evidence. Rosa, watching from the audience, finally felt that the 15 years of separation had served their intended purpose. The children she'd helped save by dismantling trafficking networks were now adults starting families of their own, while Maya had developed into exactly the kind of person worth protecting. The conference concluded with Maya announcing her acceptance to MIT's Accelerated Medical Research Program, where she would continue developing treatments inspired by her brother Luis's battle with leukemia. Her work will be fully funded to the same federal programs that had once hidden her mother's identity to keep them both safe. As they walked together through the conference center afterward, Maya reflected on how completely their lives had changed. "Mom, do you think Officer Barnes learned anything from what happened?" Rosa considered the question carefully. Some people learn from consequences. Others just learn to hide their prejudices better. But what matters isn't whether he changed. It's whether the systems that enabled him have changed. Maya nodded, understanding that justice wasn't about transforming individuals, but about creating structures that prevented future harm. Her case had forced uncomfortable conversations about bias in law enforcement, leading to policy changes that would protect countless other students. The mother and daughter had lost 15 years together, but they gained something precious in return: the knowledge that their sacrifice had meaning beyond their personal story. They'd helped create a world where intelligence and character mattered more than stereotypes and assumptions. As they walked into their new future together, Maya realized that sometimes the most powerful form of justice isn't revenge against those who wronged you. It's ensuring they can never wrong anyone else the same way again. If the story of courage, sacrifice, and ultimate triumph inspired you to recognize the heroes in your own community, please subscribe to see more stories that prove one person's bravery can transform entire systems and create lasting change for everyone.